So let's talk about something really interesting. This idea of crafting a life that is truly, authentically yours. Think about it like this, a bespoke life, one that's custom made for you, not just something you grab off the rack.
You know that feeling, right? That little nagging sense that something's off? It's kind of like sitting on a really lumpy couch. I mean, you can shift around, you can prop yourself up with a pillow, you can make it work, but deep down you know it's just not comfortable. You're only putting up with it because, well, it's there.
And that really gets to the heart of it. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we accept all the lumpy couches in our lives, whether it's in our jobs, our relationships, or even just our day-to-day routines? What is it that makes us settle?
Okay, so to figure that out, let's just dig into that not quite right feeling for a minute. It's that persistent whisper that the life you're living doesn't quite fit who you are.
A lot of the time, the story we tell ourselves sounds something like this. Well, under the circumstances, this is as good as it gets. We basically convince ourselves that our options are limited, that this is the best we can hope for. It's a real scarcity mindset, right? Where we just accept what's handed to us instead of going out and creating what we truly want.
But what if that's not the only option? What if there's another way? What if we could just say no thanks to that off-the-rack life and build something that fits us perfectly? Well, that brings us to this really powerful idea of living a bespoke life.
So what does bespoke even mean? It's actually pretty simple, but it's profound. It just means something is custom-made, tailored specifically for one person. Like a bespoke suit, right? It's not made for the masses, it's made just for you. Now just imagine taking that same principle and applying it to your entire life.
And this, right here, is the absolute core of it all. On one side, you've got settling, just taking the generic one-size-fits-all option. And on the other, you have the custom-made path. That's an active choice, a decision to design a life that is uniquely, undeniably, 100% yours. It's the ultimate antidote to that lumpy couch feeling.
Okay, so choosing this path sounds amazing, but let's be real, it isn't always easy. There are some pretty powerful forces out there that are constantly pushing us to just settle. So where does all this pressure actually come from?
You can really see the contrast here. Over on one side, you have the worldviews of other people, and these are shaped by their own status, their age, their unique experiences, and sometimes it can feel like they're forcing that on us. But then on the other side is the fundamental truth. Your life is your own. The choice is yours. Your reason to live has to come from you, not from anyone else.
So, if we can't always change the people around us, or the pressures they put on us, what's the move? What can we actually do? Well, the answer isn't in changing the world, but in changing how we see it. It's all about rearranging your own mindset.
This is so crucial because this is where your power is. Empowerment comes from inside. We might not be able to control all the external stuff happening around us, but we always have control over our internal response. We can hold on to who we really are, no matter how loud the outside noise gets.
So how do we actually do this in a practical way? Here's a simple 4-step game plan. First, just recognize their intent. Second, let them have their own perspective. Let them do as they please. Now the third step is the most important one. You get to choose how you're affected by it all. And finally, you can actually use their input to your advantage. Because hey, sometimes the best way to figure out what you want is by getting crystal clear on what you don't want. Here's a fantastic way to think about this. Sometimes people are just like an old record player, kind of stuck on the same song. They just repeat the same advice over and over again because it's what they know. The trick is to recognize they probably mean well, even if the advice is a bit outdated. You can acknowledge their good intentions, and then just choose to play your own music. So what's the payoff? Once you've started reclaiming your mindset, what happens next? Well, when you stop settling and you start designing your own bespoke life, you're not just avoiding discomfort, you're choosing something so much more rewarding. You're choosing your own scenic route. And let's be clear about why this is so important. Settling has real consequences. That feeling of being on the lumpy couch, it just gets old. It completely stunts your growth and keeps you stuck. And so often it all comes down to a simple fear of standing out, of being different from the crowd. You know, the fuel for this whole bespoke journey isn't getting approval from others. It's your own intrinsic desire. It's that internal compass, that deep personal why that keeps the whole adventure fresh and meaningful, long after the excitement of a shortcut has faded.
And that reminds me of this really beautiful idea. We're so often taught to look for the easy way, the shortcut to happiness. But the real magic, the true fulfillment, that's found on the scenic route. that unique, winding journey that was designed just for you.
Now, let's be real for a second. This whole thing isn't about reaching some perfect finished state. It's a process. It's ongoing. Even the most self-aware people you know are still a work in progress. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to keep growing, to constantly try to become a better, more authentic version of who we were yesterday.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. It's not about what anyone else wants for you, it's about what you want for yourself. What old self, what old habit of settling will you try to outgrow? The scenic route is waiting for you.